In this one, let's understand when Atlassian moved from JSON to Protobuf. To be honest, I have a bunch of videos on a lot of companies, especially for example LinkedIn, moving from JSON to Protobuf and the benefits they got out of it. I would highly recommend you check that out. But through this dissection, it's fascinating to see how they moved. So the key insight that you would get is how things evolve and how and what it takes for you to migrate from one format to another, like when you do it in actual production. Okay, so let me set the context, and everything is taken from Atlassian's blog. I'll link it in the iCard above or below the description. You'll find the link. Okay, so what's the context? The context is simple. Jira, the most popular tool out there, Jira has issues, like literal issues, right? And they wanted to migrate issues from Jira monolith to an issues microservice. So issues microservice obviously had a database, which was a simple key value store, because given an issue, give me the detail is the most common way to do it. And they stored issue as a document. Consider it like a JSON document. Right? So when they rolled this out, they wanted to move from Jira monolith to issues microservices. These are the three phases in which they did it. Phase number one. Phase number one was about making your issue service and eventually consistent cache for issues data. The flow was very simple. The request was coming to Jira monolith, will still come to Jira monolith, right? But if it's a write request, it would write to primary DB, which is the source of truth for issues right now. But what they were doing is, if the reads were coming, the reads came to Jira monolith for an issue. Jira monolith made a call to issues microservice to get the data. Issue microservice would check its own database to get the data. If it has the data, great, it would serve it. If not, if it's a cache miss, it would then go to Jira monolith, which will go to primary DB, get the data and serve it. That's the flow. Right? Okay. Now, this is where the first phase is your issues service or issue service is acting as an eventual consistent cache for issues data. Right? So it is an eventually consistent cache because this is a phased rollout. This is not a final version. This is a phased rollout. Phase 2 is where the issues data is written to both issues service and Jira monolith. So this way what happens is your writes that are going to your primary also goes to this. That's your second phase. This way what happens is now issue service does not have to rely on primary DB to get the issues data. The data is directly written to issues database, which is memcached in this case. Okay, so this way your reads will go to issue service, and some critical reads, let's say which need consistent reads, can go to monolith because that is your source of truth. Right. Okay, now phase 3. Now that the writes are flowing to issues, writes are also going to monolith. No questions there. Right? But because your reads were served from issues, your writes are now going to issues service. So phase 3 is where you flip from your monolith to issues service completely. So issues data return to issues service and they are also read from it. So this is the complete transition that happens. Now, some things, like some key things that I want to highlight. First thing is, if you see, a lot of data is exchanged, issues are very bulky, the documents are very bulky, so a lot of network bandwidth is consumed, which is where the size of data and performance became the key factor, because of which they decided that, hey, can we optimize the amount of data that we are transferring over the network? Which is where obviously JSON, too slow, too inefficient, human readable, great, language of the web, great, but they are very expensive, right? With respect to serialization, deserialization time, size of the data after serialization and whatnot. So which is where they thought of switching away from JSON, and obviously options were Protobuf, Avro, Cryo, and Thrift. Protobuf hands down wins because super compact format and the world uses it, to be honest. It's better on marshalling and unmarshalling time. It's better on size of data. Data is highly compressed and schema changes are both backward compatible and forward compatible. So life becomes easy. Now let's look at how they did no downtime migration from JSON to Protobuf. We'll dig deeper. So on high level 3 phases I spoke about. Now let's dig deeper on what they actually did. So step number 1, you all understand the flow now, right? So step number 1, they created a new endpoint in Jira monolith. They created new endpoint in Jira monolith that returns the data in Protobuf format to issue service. Remember, issue service had a cache miss. So let's say read came to issue service. If issue service, read came to issue service from Jira monolith, and if issue service don't have the data, it goes to monolith. Monolith goes to the database, gets the data, and issue service gets the data. It caches it over here. So for subsequent reads to be served from issue service. This is the flow. Let me explain one more time. Imagine this. Your request came over here to read an issue with a particular ID, let's say 123. Jira monolith, because it's a read request on issues, read request will go to issue service for issue 123. Issue service checks its database. If it has the data, great, serve it. Awesome. If it does not have the data, issue service will go to the primary DB to get the data. But instead of talking to primary DB, issue service talks to Jira monolith. Jira monolith talks to this, gets the data, saves the data in memcache, and then serves it to the user. And subsequent reads go over there because the data will be available. So eventually consistent cache is what it has become. Right? So for step number 1, you create an endpoint in Jira monolith to return the data in Protobuf format to issue service. That's one. Issue service then starts consuming it. Second step is you create a new endpoint in issue service that can be leveraged by monolith calls. So request from user to monolith, no change. Right? But monolith, when it's talking to issue service, will call this new endpoint of issue service, which returns the data in Protobuf format. And here at this point, the data is also stored in Protobuf format in memcached. Memcache, document store, you serialize the data and then you dump it in memcache. So now, after second step, when the request comes to Jira monolith's request goes to issue service checks the database, gets the data in Protobuf, sends the data to the user after converting it into JSON. So no changes over here. This entire communication is now efficient over Protobuf. Third point is you make the change in monolith to call the new endpoint of issue service and process the Protobuf before returning to the client. So after this endpoint is added, Jira monolith talks to this over the new endpoint to get the issues detail in Protobuf format. It gets the data, converts it into JSON and sends it to the user. Right? This is if you observe, this is how step by step you go and make sure that you are doing no downtime data format changes in APIs. Okay. Now, another key thing that you would learn from this is how do you do an incremental rollout? So especially when you're changing the format, some things that you need to take care of. You have to take care of correctness. You have to find the bugs. You cannot just roll out to 100% like on day 0. So how do you actually do that? The simple and plus everything needs to be revertible very easily. So what you can do is, or what Atlassian did is they introduced a flag. Flag had 3 values: old, check, and new. Old means execute only on the old data, old format, old logic and serve the user. User in any case remains unaffected. Right? So old is you only going to Jira monolith, return back. Done. Right? New was this and return back. Right? And check was where you fire old also, you fire new also, you compare the result, and if there are any differences, you report the differences. This is an easy way. Imagine this is all happening in production. This is a very easy way for you to know For your end users remain unaffected because you are firing a request on both old and new. You would always serve the old one. If the difference is there between old and new, you register the difference. This way, engineers, you and other engineers can take a look at it, identify the bugs and fix them. So this is how step by step they did rollout, and this old check and new is more common than you think. It's not highly uncommon for people to do this kind of migration. And more importantly, if something goes wrong, you can always just change the flag to old and things would start working fine if there's any bug in the newer logic. Okay, now this is how the movement happened. Protobuf, everybody knows it's lightning fast, low on size, but let's look at the impact that it brought on Atlassian. The impact is simple, actually not so simple. The impact is actually fascinating. So impact is, this is the time where the migration happened. So after this, the Memcache CPU started consuming 75% less cycles. That's amazing. 75% less cycle on Memcache. 80% smaller data size than JSON. 80%. Look at this. 80%. That's humongous. Right? Plus, on serialization decerialization time, which means converting from JSON to binary or the wire protocol and then converting back, or JSON to object and converting back, your deserialization time with Protobuf is 33 times faster. Okay? And the serialization time is 4 times faster. That's humongous. Okay? And this is why Atlassian moved from JSON to Protobuf for their issue service. But you would say that, hey Arpit, but if let's say Memcache CPU is reduced, doesn't it also help in cost optimization? It actually does. By doing this, Memcache cluster, like Atlassian could reduce their Memcache cluster by 55%, which means 55% of cost saved just by moving from JSON to Protobuf on their Memcache cluster. That's a pretty decent save, right? And this is where I would like to also convey the importance of critically challenging every single design decision. Do not just take word on its face value and say, hey, JSON, 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 hey, Protobuf, Protobuf, Protobuf. For your use case, see what makes sense. If it does, try it out, build a quick prototype, test the waters, and then you see the impact. You start rolling it out to all the users. And critically asking questions about things which are very common, like JSON format. Nobody thinks of changing it. Right? But that's where you might be able to unlock a massive impact. This is a classic example. Not just CPU got reduced, not just memory became efficient, not just serialization, deceleration time got saved. You also reduced, or you could also reduce the Memcache cluster size by 55%. That's a humongous save. And yes, this is all what I wanted to cover today. This is a simple blog where Atlassian moved from JSON to Protobuf, but I thought I would cover this from the perspective of how to do such migrations or how to drive such migrations in productions. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. It means a ton. All the important links are present in the iCard above or below the description. You would see the link to the blog. I would highly recommend you to check that out. Apart from this, I also run courses on system design, which are highly practical, completely no fluff. Instead of like directly doing questions and answers, we try to build intuition around designing systems and tackle each and every system in a highly practical way, like very practical way, like literally things you can ship in production after that. Right? And we'll always operate in a small cohort, and the course will be filled with brainstorming so that it's not just me monologuing for an hour, hour and a half, or 2 hours or 3 hours. It will be very collaborative. This way you will learn from others, you learn from me, you learn by making mistakes. It will rewire your brain and help you make sane design decisions. We'll discuss trade-offs at every single place so that you start seeing patterns in systems and then apply them into whenever you're designing similar or even dissimilar systems because your foundations are strong. And yeah, I would highly recommend. I've been doing it for 4 years and I have a time of my life doing every Saturday, Sunday morning, talking to people, brainstorming systems. It's always fun. Right? Awesome. So that's it. This is all what I wanted to cover today. I hope you found it interesting. Hope you found it amusing. That's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, Ethan.